Thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We are, in fact, free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. Do us a favor, subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the bell for notifications, comment down below, and upvote the video itself. We'd appreciate it very much. We're here with Derek Vandygriff for our weekend series preview that we do every week. Ole Miss plays the Arkansas Razorbacks in Swayze. I think it's in Swayze this weekend. Yeah, and it's just in the middle of this meat grinder of a schedule that Ole Miss is going through because they still have, they have to go three games against State. They still have 3 games against LSU, and then it gets a little bit easier. But, man, the SEC is just no joke, man.
Yeah, it's an absolute bear. We talked about it coming into the year, these first 6 weeks of conference play, how tough it was, with Vandy and Florida and A&M, Arkansas, State, and LSU, and you sit there and you swap home and away week after week too. So you don't really get a chance to get in the groove playing a bunch of games in Oxford. Kind of stack wins a little bit, but big time series coming up this weekend. A big baseball rivalry, Ole Miss and Arkansas. That may be our biggest baseball rivalry. All the big games we've played over the last 5 to 10 years against each other, whether it be in Omaha or in the super regionals. It's definitely a big one, and the Rebels really, really need to take 2 this weekend to stay on track.
Yeah, and Ole Miss's struggles at the beginning of SEC play this year is kind of overshadowing the fact that Mike Bianco became the second all-time winningest SEC coach after the win over Memphis midweek. That's a pretty big deal. He passed his man Skip Bertman, which probably meant a lot to him as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, huge congratulations to Mike Bianco. Always been a huge fan of him, obviously, what he's built this baseball program into. And, it's nice to see all of his hard work pay off over these last 20-plus years, and to be able to pass such a legend like Skip Bertman, who's probably the best coach in SEC history, with all the titles he won down in Baton Rouge. And just super happy for Mike. And, it kind of shows you how good Mike Bianco has been throughout his years here in Oxford. You don't get to that kind of number, unless you're really consistent year in and year out. He's never had that absolute dud year, and that's kind of where this comes to. So congratulations to Mike, and now the next one up's Ron Polk. It's going to take a few years, 9-10 years, something like that. But if he keeps the train rolling, I think he's got a chance to pass him as the all-time winningest coach in SEC history, and I hope he does. And more than anything, I can't wait to be on the ride with him to see if he can catch him.
Yeah, and if Mike Bianco wants to break that record, Mike Bianco will break that record because he's like 55 years old at this point.
Yeah, he's got plenty of time ahead of him, and it's kind of like we just said. He never has those absolute dud years. He's going to win 30 games a year, it seems, every single year. So we're really excited to see if he can catch him or not. It's going to be a fun ride.
All right, the Arkansas Razorbacks, as we said earlier, coming into town. Mm-hmm. Tell me about the Arkansas Razorbacks. I know that they had some arm injuries on their pitching staff.
Yeah.
What are we looking at?
Yeah. They've had Brady Tigert go down. They're going to end up getting him back at some point this year. It sounds like he's starting to ramp things up. Luckily, it doesn't sound like we're going to end up seeing him in Oxford this weekend, so that's obviously a plus. But still a really good ball club, though. Dave Van Horn, extremely good coach, obviously. I think he's, 5th all-time in SEC wins, if I'm not mistaken. He's just behind Bianco, like 40 games, 50 games, something like that behind him. So, he always has a really good club. And, this one's no different. It's a really, really balanced Arkansas Razorback club. They pitch it okay, especially on Friday nights. What's interesting with them is they took their ace, Hagen Smith, and they actually moved him to the bullpen. That way they can pick and choose where to use him on the weekends. A lot of times you'll see him coming out of the pen on Friday night to eat up the last 4 innings or something like that. If it's a close game, or like last weekend, they ended up getting blown out on Friday. So they saved him for Saturday, and he come in through 4 or 5 really good innings for them. So definitely an interesting strategy that Dave Van Horn's using over there, but it seems to be working for them. They're, a club that pitches fine. They're not like Vanderbilt or Florida level from a pitching staff standpoint, but they keep themselves in it, and they really hit the ball well, especially their outfield. They've got 4 guys hitting over 340, and all 4 of them with an OPS over 1,000. 3 of them with OPS is over 1,200. So a club that can really hit up and down the lineup, and we're going to end up seeing a former Rebel this weekend too. On Sundays, they've been swapping 2 pitchers in and out. One of them will start, one of them come out of the bullpen. But Cody Adcock, he's going to be coming back to Oxford. He's with Ole Miss last year, and he's had a pretty good year. So it'll be interesting to see how he does coming back to Oxford. Obviously, Mike Bianco and the guys know him pretty well from his time in Oxford, and hopefully know how to attack him. But he's pitched pretty well this year. On Friday nights, Hunter Holan, that's one we got to worry about. Whenever I look at weekend series, I always look to see how many lefties they're throwing, and Friday night that's Hunter Holan. He's a lefty, and that's giving us fits throughout the year. So if we can get to him though, after Doherty with his performance last Friday, I thought he pitched really well. If we can go up there and match him pitch for pitch, and hopefully get into their bullpen, then we can still Friday. And then you get Rivas on the mound, JT Quinn, who I thought looked really good, both of them last weekend. We got a pretty good shot to win this series this weekend, and bullpen's kind of coming around a little bit. You see some arms hopefully starting to emerge a little bit. So, but yeah, just a really solid ball club, top to bottom. You don't have to worry about Brady Tigert. That's nice. You just got to wonder when Dave Van Horn is going to let loose Hagen Smith, the big lefty coming out of the bullpen. So that's one thing we'll have to watch for this weekend. We're used to seeing them.
What are they looking like hitting the ball? I remember 2 years ago they were like just monsters out there. They're just a machine. Is it that level, or have they dropped down a little bit? How does it look?
Well, they're pretty top heavy. About their first, I would say 5, maybe 6 batters, something like that, are pretty tough. Their entire outfield can really swing it. Jace Beaufran, the right fielder, is having an incredible year for him right now. He's hitting 391 with 6 home runs, and Jared Wegner is the big bat in the lineup. He plays left field for him, 370, 12 home runs. The center fielder, Tavian Josenberger, he's hitting 362. He's got 5 home runs, but he's also the speedster, and that's kind of giving Ole Miss some fits a little bit this year with people running. You kind of saw it Tuesday night with Memphis. Memphis was able to create havoc on the base paths. We were able to get out of it, but they ran a lot on Calvin Harrison, had some success there. But he's got 7 stolen bases on the year. Like I said, whenever you have 3 guys with OPSs over 1,200 and 4 over 1,000, they can really swing it. But with the way Ole Miss's pitching staff, and I know it doesn't seem like it, but I think we really are starting to make strides with trying to figure out some roles and stuff like that. Mason Nichols, he really didn't pitch bad, even though he gave up that walk-off home run on Sunday for the Rebels. He gave us, I think, 2 or 3 shutout innings going into that inning. So, I think things are starting to turn around a little bit for us, though. So if we can keep those guys at bay, we might have found something with the rotation with Doherty, Rivas, and JT Quinn. And, it shouldn't be too much longer until we're able to get Hunter Elliott back in there on that Friday night roll, and then Riley Maddox back there in the bullpen again, too. So there's arms coming. We just got to keep our head above water. And, I think Mike and the guys are starting to figure some things out where they're starting to be able to put 27 outs together in a game, which was really a struggle, 2-3 weeks ago in particular.
Yeah, let's talk about this Ole Miss pitching staff. You mentioned like Doherty on Friday night, and then you have Rivas Saturday, and then you have JT Quinn right now on Sunday. Grayson Saunier actually had a good outing against Memphis in the midweek. Yeah. And one of the things we talked about was ways that they could get Jack Doherty into the bullpen, trying to get him back to get that together. Has Ole Miss solidified their bullpen a little bit? Is there a chance for Doherty to end up back as the closer? How does all this look midway through the SEC season?
I think there's absolutely a chance that he gets his way back into the bullpen, because I think Mike and the guys also know that that's what's best for this pitching staff. They need to be able to bring Doherty out in the high leverage situations, a lot like Arkansas is doing with Hagen Smith right now, right? I mean, he was the Friday night guy, But they needed help coming out of the pen, so they just threw him back there and said, "Hey, we're going to bring you in whenever we need you throughout the weekend, and we're going to burn you that way." That's what we need to do with Jack Doherty. But yeah, I definitely think there's a path there. Number one, getting Hunter Elliott back, right? That's the big one. You got to have him back to go on Fridays. Revis is a very solid SEC Saturday starter, so I think that's a role he can take a hold of and not let go. And then at that point, it's still a battle between J.T. Quinn and Grayson Saunier. Like you said, Saunier, I thought looked really good Tuesday night against Memphis. He was really locating his fastball in areas where it wouldn't get damaged, right? It was the second inning, I think it was, when I was watching it. There were two fastballs in particular, one right on the outside corner, and one he brought it back into the inside corner and didn't get the call on 2 strikes from the umpires, but they were located really well. They had a lot of movement. They ran on him there. So that was really nice to see. He's not sitting there just throwing it over the plate, fastball over and over again, letting it get smashed. He's able to move it around, and I thought he located it well. Changeup was good. Slider was good. It was a very encouraging start for Saunier Tuesday night against Memphis, and Quinn gets better, I think, every single time I see him pitch. I mean, that curveball just – I mean, it drops off the table. It's a real weapon for him. The fastball is hard. It doesn't move a lot, which is a problem. But if you're sitting there trying to gear up for anywhere from 94 to 96 and he drops that curveball in on you, that can really mess up the timing. And I think I brought it up on a podcast earlier in the year when I watched JT pitch. The changeup seems to be a real weapon for him right now, too. It gave I can't remember who it was in the midweek, but one game he pitched, he was using that changeup a lot to work off that fastball, and it absolutely gave him fit. So it's really nice to see somebody have a 3-pitch mix, just like Saunier's showing right now. So if that's your options on Sunday, then you're okay. You don't want that to be a debate for a Saturday starter. That's why it's so important for Revis to be there and to hold that down. And after a shaky start against A&M, he really settled down after giving up runs early, and you look up and he ends up getting through the 5th and I think pitched into the 6th before they finally pulled him. And that was real big with Jack giving the 6th the night before, too, before that weather delay. And, they said Jack would have come out for the 7th if it wasn't for that lightning delay, which, that obviously sucks because that would have been another inning we didn't have to use our pen. But yeah, I think they're really starting to figure some things out right now. And now you've got to get Elliott back, get Doherty back in the bullpen, and then start figuring out roles from there. Obviously, Doherty and Nichols be your late inning guys. Takoian's been, I thought, pretty good so far as a freshman, right? He goes in there, he pitches a lot of innings, he gets out. Morrell, I think, has pitched incredible for us this year. He leads the SEC in appearances by a pitcher right now. We use him so much. So if we can get him, or get somebody to lighten the load a little bit on him, I think his stuff will play up a lot too. So we've got arms coming, especially Maddox comes back too. And if we figure this thing out, the back half of the schedule sets up for us to really make a run.
Thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. Make sure you check out our brand new podcast, Locked On College Basketball. Everything you need to know about college basketball in one place. From big name experts to insiders, coaches, and players. National championship just finished, and they actually were debating all over the nation whether or not UConn, who has won 5 national championships in 25 years, is a blue blood. It is absolutely ridiculous. Locked On College Basketball is available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. Derek, thank you very much for stopping by, buddy.
All right, appreciate it, bud. Howdy toddy.
Howdy toddy.